Hi, everyone. It's Good Morning Camarillo Seniors again. Today on our Meet the Neighbor, we've got Sandy Moore, and she's got a lot of experiences to talk about. I'm sure we're going to let you in on some of her secrets. Sandy, take it away.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Sandy Moore. I was born in Kansas City, Missouri. And when I was 3 days old, my mother and my aunts, 5 aunts, moved me back and forth from the front seat to the back seat as we moved across country and came to California. So I think I'm a California native. I'm not so sure, but I feel like I am. We landed in Los Angeles. My aunt was in real estate. I was raised by a great aunt. And she always bought and sold houses. And so that was a continuum for me, always into a new house, always renovating a new house. I lived on Occidental Boulevard, which is a main thoroughfare. The mayor of Los Angeles lived just up the street from us. And unfortunately for me, I lived between my school and my church. So I could never get away with anything because someone would come and rat me out. I enjoyed living in LA for the time I was there. I went to school, went to Catholic school most of my life. The last year, I went to 3 different schools at 4 different times, my senior year of high school. And I couldn't wait to get married. I got married at 18 years and a day because my aunt wouldn't sign the paperwork for me to get married. I got married. I had 2 children. Absolute love of my life. My daughter passed away in 2004. My oldest daughter at the age of 41. And she has been severely missed. Anything you needed, that girl would be there for you anytime. Not saying that my daughter that lives here with me now at Vintage isn't similarly that way. This is the second new building I've lived in since probably 2000. I moved into Springville Seniors here in Camarillo right after the Thomas Fire. Some of you that have lived here before knew about the Thomas Fire. Mm-hmm. It wiped out a lot of our local community, and especially in Ventura. And so I was homeless for almost 2 years. I bought a camper trailer and moved it up into Ojai and lived there for about 6 or 7 months until I was able to move into Springville. And then my daughter moved into Springville with me. That was fun until we moved here. And now we live across the hall from each other. Most of my life has been dedicated to helping people. I worked for many nonprofit agencies. I had an employment agency that I was co-owner of. I placed the first woman on an oil field for Union Oil. That was back when it was equal opportunity time. And she came to me and she said, I don't want any woman's job. I want to work hard and love what I do. So I found her that job and she just loved it. After the agency, I was more interested in raising my kids, but I was still involved in PTA and the community in numerous other ways. Did fundraising for local organizations. During the time I owned the employment agency, I found that my community was as important as anything I had ever done. And so I was the first woman to be elected to the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce for the city of Ventura. And I chaired many committees. To name a few, the Transportation Committee and the Special Events Committee. And then I joined a local organization called Business and Professional Women's Organization. And I worked my way up from a member of that organization to becoming the district president, which encompassed about 13 local organizations. And I had a great time at that. We were always doing fundraising for people that were running for office. We had a developmental program where young women that wanted to be in business, we helped support them and get them on their way. During that time, I think it was during that time, I found out that there was this organization called Around the World on One Tank of Gas. It was called the Voyager. And that was one of the most interesting times of my life. I was married to a flight surgeon, and he was very interested in anything that was space oriented or air oriented. We ran an air ambulance company, and I never knew where I was going to be from one day to the next. I always carried a suitcase of cold weather clothing and warm weather clothing because I never knew where we were going to be. And he found this Around the World in One Tank of Gas. And he got very interested in it, and we got very involved in it, and he became one of the medical doctors for the flight crew and the visitors, the people that were there to watch the event take place. And they made it all the way around the world on one tank of gas. And the Voyager is now in the Space Museum and the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. So that was very, very interesting. And then somehow I got interested in research of a person that I heard that lived in Oxnard in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I began doing research on her. For those of you that are interested in that era, you might want to look up the Times Magazine article called Sin and Souffle. This person was into a lot of different things. She ran a brothel and she was an exceptional cook. I just found her fascinating. And as I was researching for this book, my daughter passed away. And I put all of my research away. I thought I'd never have another creative bone in my body. And then when COVID hit and all of us were wondering what we were going to do with our lives, I decided to clean out my closet. I got up on a step stool and started to clean out clothes, and I got hit by a album basically, and I had no idea what it was. I got down off of the step stool and started looking at it and realized it was all the research that I had done on Lucy Hicks. So I had been writing the book in my head for a really long time. And I found all I had to do was just sit down at the typewriter or the computer and start writing. And one of my neighbors, this is the value of knowing your neighbor. One of my neighbors was standing in the hallway and we began talking, and I was telling her about the book. And she said, "Would you like some help?" And I thought, okay, what kind of help? And she said, "I was an English major in college. Since I didn't know where to put a comma, where to put a semicolon, and where to put quote marks, I handed my entire manuscript over to her, and she became the editor of my book." So it's very important that we get to know our neighbors, use them as a resource. Don't be afraid. None of us fight, I don't think. But let's get to know one another and know each other better and take care of each other as we live out the rest of our lives in this lovely community. And I hope to find friends out there wherever you are.
Good. Thank you, Sandy. I agree wholeheartedly.